sorry. Hello, we've got Seb here talking about a no hosting around guide to marketing mobile. So if you have any questions, could you please use the Eventi app to ask them, and afterwards we still have time. Hopefully you'll do a Q&A.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And afterwards I'll pick them up and read them out, so it's easier for us to manage all of that. Yeah, so thanks so much.
Cool, thanks. Hi everyone, my name's Seb Featherstone. I'm the marketing coordinator at PicPoc. And this is a no horsing around guide to marketing on mobile. Let's get started. So in this presentation, we'll be looking at lessons from 2 years of Rival Stars horse racing on the App Store. You'll learn how to create captivating storefronts, understand the user funnel and the app ecosystem, how to react to live audiences, and building and nurturing a highly engaged community. So great marketing starts with a great product. Before you even begin to think about your marketing, you want to think about the product that you're creating. So don't think about the game that you want to make. Think about the game that people want to play. Is there a market for your game? Is it saturated? What is unique about your game? Typically in the West, we think about what we want to make and then market that to people rather than identifying a need and fulfilling that. So let's take a look at the market opportunity for our game, Rival Stars Horse Racing. There's plenty of horse games on the marketplace, so we know that it's an established marketplace. The sport and the hobby has huge viewership worldwide, so we know that there's a lot of interest from people. We identified that there was low competition and high quality and realistic horse mobile games. And most of the existing horse games on the market didn't appeal to the adult demographic. So we knew there was an opportunity to be the best in the space. So you want to liaise with your game designers, the people that are creating the core experience, and find out what it is about the game experience that they are trying to create and how it would influence the marketing material that you create. So based on the stuff that the game designers provided, we're able to make our core experience, create legendary horses through meaningful training and breeding decisions, feel the thrill and thunder of racing viewed through a cinematic lens, aspire to the glitz and glamour and glory of thoroughbred racing. So with that in mind, we're able to think, okay, what are the sorts of assets that we're wanting to create? What is the messaging behind the things that we're trying to say? We've got a baseline of things that we want to adhere to and follow. So once we have our core experience, we want to create some marketing personas. So we know what we want to make, and now it's who are we going to make it for. So we created a primary, a secondary, and tertiary persona. And these will help influence a lot of the decisions that you make when creating your marketing material. So as our primary persona, we had Edward. He's the racing enthusiast. He grew up going to horse races, takes pride knowing the industry, is comfortable placing bets, and likes to play premium games. And then our secondary, we have David, or Davo, the sports enthusiast. Likes to go out with his mates, check out the races. It's all about the atmosphere, and is very social. And then our last persona, we have Heather, the horse enthusiast. She loves horses, is all right about the races, but just wants to have quality horses. And so these personas will often be dictated by not only the core experiences that you have, but the market research that you do in identifying who would be the people playing. So the core experiences and personas go hand in hand in terms of creating the content that you're going to make. And so, Rival Stars Horse Racing was born. So this talk is specifically about marketing on mobile. The two app stores that you'll be dealing with is obviously the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store. They have subtle differences in the way that they work, but largely they're the same, featuring an icon, your name, trailer assets, description, and short description. These will all help you to pitch your product to the audience. What's notable is on the App Store you have what's called a promotional text, which allows you to change the text whenever you like without needing to make a submission. And this is useful for providing audiences with, like, the game is up to date, new things is happening. So that keeps audiences knowing that, you know, you're working on the game, it's not just being left behind. Also, one thing to notice is the placement of the assets on Google Play. You can see that the trailer is the first asset that you see. Has the feature graphic. So you want to make sure that your feature graphic is the most impressionable thing in terms of the arrangement of your trailer and store images. And there's also like a little cutout on the side there that you can see. So adding some visual flair or something to help people move along is going to help get people to move across the store images. All right, so during our soft launch period, we designed a storefront based on our core experiences and our personas that we created. So this is the first revision of the storefront that we created. We thought to ourselves, okay, if Edward was on the App Store, what would he want to see? And so the poster frame or feature graphic, which appears before the app preview or the trailer plays on the App Store, is very focused on that sort of prestige and that glitz and glamour of the of horse racing. The icon sort of does the same thing. It's your most important visual element in the storefront and really needs to be able to sell your game in that single visual icon. And in terms of store images, you can see we've added call-outs to each of the images to reinforce the messaging that we have. So the first image is breed a stable of champions. We want people to feel like they are, breeding their own horses and raising them to be winning horses. Train a team of winners, race rivals around the world, and triumph over the odds. So these are all focused and geared towards our primary and secondary persona, with the last store image sort of speaking to the more horse lifestyle and enthusiast aspect of that. So in terms of importance, you want your poster frame and feature graphic to really nail your messaging. This is the first thing that people are going to see once they go, and it's going to be, in terms of placement on the App Store, it's going to be the only thing they can see, with your second store image and your last being the most important after that. People don't tend to really look at the middle ones. So we'll go into the metadata. This is all your written copy that you will have, and this is a little bit of a different game than your visual assets. A lot of this is important for keyword ranking or ASO, and each field plays a part in keyword searchability. So your app name has your highest weighting in terms of searchability on the App Store. So you need to think to yourself, when you're naming your app, what are people looking for when they're looking for my game, and does my name reflect that? Now, that doesn't always need to be the case. If you have a strong IP or you're looking to create a brand, then your branding becomes your most important keywords. On iOS, you get 30 characters to write a subtitle, which is a lot harder than it looks. It's probably one of my favorite things to do. You've got to compact a really cohesive sales pitch and 30 characters while also considering the keywords that you think people might search in the search field. Similarly, on Google Play, they give you a little bit more room to play around with, 80 characters. And again, you can see we've put a lot of keywords in that we think people are going to look for: breed, train, manage, stable, race, champion. And then moving on to the keyword field, this is something that you can do on the Apple App Store. They give you 100 characters, and they index this in their search algorithms. And with these ones, it's kind of looks like there's a weird variation of different keywords, but actually what happens is it combines them with your app name, subtitle, and any other words in the keyword field to create mid to long tail keywords. So if you think search phrases, you can have sort of, if someone's looking for a horse breeding game, well, horse is in the app name, breeding is in the keywords. Your long description is where you can really get into the nitty-gritty of things, put all your feature sets, sell the story, and pitch it to your audience. Only about 3% of people actually read the store description. It's not that many, but it's still important to do and really gives you an opportunity to sell it to those people who want to. Right, moving on. My game is now live. Now what? Good question, I asked myself. Impression. So if we think about the user journey or the audience journey from when they first hear about the game to actually playing the game, this is what the funnel looks like. And there are several ways of getting a user into this funnel. The main ones that we'll be looking at is App Store optimization, but you can do things such as user acquisition and performance marketing to bring in more users into that funnel. So it starts off with an impression. Your impression is when they go onto the App Store, they search or they browse or they see it anywhere on the App Store, and the first thing they're going to see is that icon and your name. And so they go, oh, I like that icon. I click on the name, seems like something I want. Ooh, store images look real nice. That looks like a bit of me. I'm going to download the game. So that's all you can do within the space of App Store optimization is go, I want to deliver a good impression. Once they get through, I want to deliver the content that is meaningful to them, and then I want them to download the game. So I have install there as the second one. The main difference between downloading and install is that some people download the game without actually opening the app for the first time. So opening it for the first time is considered an installation. And then moving through, you want to have retention, which is done through not only the game design itself, but there are several marketing techniques that you can use, which is what I'll cover in retention marketing. And you also want to engage. So once you've retained them, you want to engage your people, or your audience, create feedback loops into a community, and provide a place where you can hold the conversation, keep those players interested, and find out what they're doing in the game. So reacting to a live audience. Now that your game is on the App Store, you're going to get some real people come through. Before, it was all the stuff that we did was based on market research, the best assumptions that we had, and using our expertise to create a storefront. But often, that's not the case once people actually start coming through. So you need to be able to react to your audience and have strategies in place for adapting your marketing collateral to facilitate that. So you can do App Store optimization and A/B testing, monitor your audience, and listen to your community. So part of the overall marketing strategies, we'll have a community page where members of the game can come together and share what they're enjoying about the game, talk about the game, or in this case, just talk about horses. We found that early interactions with the page indicated to us what our most engaged players were enjoying. The community are very vocal about the features that they wanted and complaints that they had, and they were also quick to call out any inaccuracies that we had. And it turned out that they just loved talking about horses. One of the most used things was the share function inside the game, where players could share photos of their favorite horses, going as far as creating their own breeding guides to get the best outcome and the coats of horses that they were wanting. Another way of gathering information about your players is leveraging your user research teams, as they can help inform not only design decisions, but also marketing decisions. You want to create a synergy between these departments so that you can also all sort of feed each other. So this is a combination of user testing surveys and user acquisition data, and this is just to sort of help us identify what are some other areas that we haven't thought of, or what are the players actually doing in the game. So out of the people that responded to the survey, we found that 71% interacted with horses in real life. And out of those that interacted with the horses, they said they liked to ride horses, they owned a horse, or participated in equestrian. So we see a high percentage of players are really enjoying do interact with horses in the real space. And then another good question is, what activity do you enjoy the most in the game? Well, it turns out that 50% of our players that responded to this survey said that breeding horses was the thing that they were most enjoying out of the game, with racing being the second. And then some of the user acquisition data allows us to have a look at the demographic breakdown, sort of the age groups of who's playing and the gender split. So we basically have a 50-50% gender split on the game, so we know that we can create our marketing material that's a bit more neutral. So with all of that information in mind, we needed to revisit our marketing personas. It was obvious that players had a different motivation when it came to playing the game, and so we thought, well, the extended audience, or the audience that we haven't captured, are probably the same. We want to capture these highly engaged people that are really into horses. I'm not sure if you know any horse people, but horse people are super into horses. So we kind of wanted to leverage that. So what we actually did was we found that Heather was actually our primary persona. We changed her. She's the horse lover, lives and breathes horses, involved in the horse community, and wants a quality horse game intended for adults. And we moved Edward as the second, as racing was still a key and fundamental component of the game, but it was obvious that there were other things that players were interested in. So moving forward, that helped us to inform some of the App Store optimization decisions we wanted to make. The first thing we wanted to test was the icon, it being the most important visual feature of the storefront. We wanted to test the more earthy and prestige look of the original icon with a more sort of grounded and realistic art style. So we tested this, and we found that our realistic icon performed better. So we thought, okay, let's refine it again. We know we're on the right track. What about a even more grounded and sort of toned icon? And that one won against the other one. And so we thought, all right, what about different colored horses? So once you have your sort of general idea, your theme, you test the big picture themes, and you find which one works best, you can go into more detail-orientated stuff and try and find, okay, well, which icon is actually leading to the biggest conversion rate, and which is resonating with the audiences more. And so in this case, we found that the black horse was actually the one that did the best. So as a final test, we did black horse against, with the blue rider against the yellow rider. Interestingly enough, we actually got called out on the type of saddle and riding style that the blue rider was using, and so the yellow one reflected the proper kit. So that one claimed the prize. Cool. So moving forward to our current storefront, we still using the same icon. It does well, but what we have changed is we've pivoted not only our feature graphic, but the way that the store images are presented to better facilitate the interests of our audience. So our feature graphic, instead of having that orange nostalgic kind of legendary feel to it, we've moved to more of the open fields and meadows, leisure kind of aspect of the horse riding. It's more about hanging out in your paddock than it is about the high intensity racing. Similarly with the store images, as we've changed the first call out to breed unique horses rather than a stable of champions. It's all about getting the horse that you want with all sorts of interesting coats and patterns. Racing still being a core part of the game, that comes in second. And then as a last store image is one of our newest features, which is the jumping. So we really wanted to go, hey look, there's way more to this game than just racing around the track. I'll quickly touch on performance marketing. So performance marketing is a way that you can get users through the App Store, which isn't organic. This is usually paid. User acquisition is a really big strategy, and that's a whole other craft in itself, which I won't go into now. But that involves creating advertisements that speak to your players and getting through into the App Store. So perhaps talking with your user acquisition teams as well is a good idea, as if you create some synergy across the ads that are delivered and making sure that the expectations are met when they get to the storefront. Cross-promotion is also good if you have other games in your portfolio or other areas which you can use to advertise your own products. And influencer marketing is also another interesting one. We ran a launch campaign with some influencers, and what we did with this one is, rather than just targeting your big Fortnite gamers and trying to get as much audience traction, as we went real niche and we targeted horse racing or horse lifestyle channels. These were typically people with 30 to 50,000 subscribers. It was, for some of them, it was their first sponsorship, and because of their small size, they had highly engaged audiences. And so when they told them about this game, not only was it a good fit for the people in those communities, but they also believed the people telling it to them. Righto, so build and nurture a community. This is an important one, as it's the last part of the funnel, and it will help you to create your feedback loops. It's retention marketing. So the first picture there is an inbox message that we sent to the game with a link to the Facebook group. We found that was our strongest tool in getting players over to join the community. We're like, hey guys, if you like this game and you want to join the community, come on over. And likewise, is we have tools for our portfolio where we're allowed to place our own advertisements when players open the app. And so this allowed us to put the join the community graphic at the start of when they open the game as another way of converting players over to the community. Other things that we do to help with retention marketing is a lot of video content regularly to keep players interested and engaged in what we're doing. So recently we did a motion capture video which showcased some of the motion capture stuff that we did, and just to sort of show players like, hey guys, our animations in the game are motion captured, they're about as real as they get. And that was really well received. Every update or significant update, we'll do a developer update video where we'll showcase the new features that are coming in advance and get them excited about the new features that are coming. And also sort of more feel-good community pieces like the second anniversary video, which just kind of highlighted a roadmap of all of the features that had come through the game in the past 2 years. Another thing to keep an eye on is user-generated content. So that bottom picture there is a picture of a YouTuber who just plays our game. We didn't pay her anything, we didn't give her anything, she just likes. And there's many cases of people creating user-generated content. So think about that when you're developing your game is, when people love your game, they'll showcase it for free and perhaps join them in the conversation. Question time.
Thank you so much. I've got 5 questions here, and we've got 8 more minutes. So could you tell us something about the different market strategy in different regions?
That's a good question. So we do, on a basic level, we localize the text that we have on the storefront. But if you really wanted to get into the nitty-gritty of the cultural nuances of each region, you'd probably want to hire an agency that could do that for you. We have an understanding of the Western market, but when it comes to the East, they have their own sort of ways of doing things that we wouldn't be qualified to really do.
Thank you. What do we have? So could you introduce to us what kind of online advertising analysis tool you use in the daily work?
That's more for user acquisition or some of the performance marketing teams. Both Google Play and the App Store provide their own dashboards which have tools that help you monitor store performance. And so those are mostly what we use. We also use tools such as AppTweak, which is a keyword tool which helps us track where we're ranking in terms of keyword space, and also doing research into finding out what competitors are doing. It's actually quite a great tool. And there's other platforms such as Apptopia that we can gather insights from what other apps are doing and how they might influence our decisions.
Awesome. Next one got voted up. What's the rationale behind the last image of the App Store being as important as well as the first few?
Right, so people look at the first one and then they scroll to get to the end, and then they see the last one. So it's all like once they flick through all the images, it bounces on the last one, and that's the last one that they see. So that's the reasoning behind that.
Cool. Could you tell us more about the A/B testing? Is that directly tested on App Store?
Yeah, so in terms of A/B testing, currently Google Play is the only one that lets you set up A/B tests. And there's all sorts of things that you can test on there. But we do know that Apple is releasing their own version of A/B testing soon, which is very exciting. So that's how we do our A/B tests.
Awesome, thanks. And what impact does icon performance actually have on sales? How did the original icon perform versus the final choice?
So the way that it impacts your revenue is all down to the conversion rate. Is if you're getting impressions delivered on your icon or your current assets and people aren't converting into a download, then that's going to impact your revenue because the volume of players coming through into your title is potentially less. So by improving the creative assets, such as the icon in the storefront and your store images, this will improve the conversion rate, which will lead to more players coming into the game.
Awesome, thank you. There are no more questions on the app. Are there any questions here in the audience? Then I would just pass on the microphone. Yep.
James?
Could you use that?
That last question, it sounded a little bit like it was more to do with like the magnitude of the difference, like how I don't know how much you're allowed to speak to it, but how much they win by.
Right. Well, I guess if you're getting 1,000 impressions a day and your conversion rate is 15%, then obviously bumping that up to 20% isn't going to make too much of a meaningful difference. But if you're getting 2 million impressions per day, then a 2 or 3% change in conversion is going to have a meaningful impact. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks. Other questions? We have 4 more minutes. Yep.
Thank you for the talk. How does the sort of marketing techniques and strategies, how do they integrate into a development sprint? So with the marketing team having sort of this external view and getting this data, how does that feed into sort of the actual development process of the horse racing?
That is a good question. We don't work in the same sprint cycles that developers do, but what we do have is sort of our own regular catch-up. So on a base level, we'll meet with the stakeholders and product teams on a monthly basis outside of the product reviews and sprint reviews that are already being held. And this is just to get a gauge of what's coming up in the future and what we're doing to facilitate that. So in terms of, we're not working on a 2-week sprint cycle as a dev team might, but we, especially in pre-production, we're actively working with the teams to try and gather as much as we can to prepare our assets.
Thank you.
Any more questions?
Cool. Thanks, everyone.